I hope you're well. Welcome to the Home Broadcasting Channel. My name is Mtalam Kosia and welcome to this special edition commentary on the groundbreaking, a summit that many believe that could redefine Africa's relationship with the world, especially Europe and specifically France. Held in Nairobi and jointly hosted by William Ruto and Emmanuel Macron, the summit brings together more than 30 African heads of state, global financial institutions, business leaders, innovators, civil society groups, and youth representatives under one ambitious promise: a new partnership built on equal ground, that is, Africa Forward Summit 2026. But the big question is this: will Africa Forward Summit truly move Africa forward? Or will it become yet another high-level diplomatic gathering filled with speeches, handshakes, and promises that never really reach ordinary Africans? Today, we are going to break down why this summit matters, what is it at stake, and what Africans should demand from it. The significance of Africa Forward Summit begins with timing. Africa today stands at a historical crossroads. The continent has the world's youngest population, enormous natural resources, growing digital innovation, and rising geopolitical importance. Yet, at the same time, Africa faces a crashing debt, unemployment, climate vulnerability, insecurity, and dependence on foreign financing systems designed outside the continent. For decades, Africa has attended international summits largely as a recipient of aid. This summit attempts to change that narrative. According to the summit organizers, the summit focus is not charity but investment, innovation, industrialization, technology, and shared economic growth. And that shift is important because modern Africa is no longer asking the world for sympathy. Africa is demanding partnership, respect, market access, fair financing, and representation in global decision making. One of the most symbolic aspects of this summit is that it is being hosted in an English-speaking African country for the first time in the history of Africa-France summit diplomacy. That matters politically. For years, France's relationship with Africa has been heavily tied on former French colonies in West and Central Africa, a relationship often criticized on neo-colonial, exploitative, and also overly dependent on military influence. But today, France is losing influence across parts of Africa. Several African countries have expelled French troops, questioned all the economic arrangements, and demanded for more sovereignty. So, the Africa Forward Summit is also France trying to redefine its role on the continent. France now wants to present itself not as an Africa's controller, but as Africa's partner. The summit language itself reflects this shift. Words like equal partnership, correlation, mutual respect, and African-led solutions. But Africans have had beautiful language before, and that is why this summit will only matter if it produces measurable outcomes, not declarations, not photo sessions, not diplomatic poetry. We want real outcomes. The summit focuses on several major themes. There is energy transition and green industrialization, artificial intelligence and digital technologies, sustainable agriculture, health systems, blue economy, peace and security, and reform of the international financial system. Now, these are not random topics. They represent the future battlegrounds of global power. Take artificial intelligence, for example. Africa today cannot afford to become only a consumer of AI technologies built elsewhere. The continent must become a producer of technology, data infrastructure, software innovation, and digital talent. If this summit is serious, then Africans should expect technology transfer, African-owned innovation hubs, startup financing, digital infrastructure, and policies that empower young African developers and entrepreneurs. Otherwise, Africa risks becoming digitally colonized in the same way it was economically colonized in the past. And then there is agriculture. Africa possesses nearly 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. Imagine that. Because Africa exports raw materials and imports processed foods at higher prices, that cycle must end. A relevant Africa Forward Summit should therefore prioritize food processing industry, agricultural technology, irrigation system, farmer financing, regional trade, and value addition within Africa itself. Because the future of African prosperity cannot depend on exporting raw materials forever, the same applies to green energy. Africa has enormous solar, wind, geothermal, and hydroelectric potential. Countries like Kenya are already emerging as leaders in geothermal energy, yet Africa still struggles with electricity access. That contradiction is unacceptable. If global powers want Africa to support the world's green transition, then Africa must benefit industrially from it. Africans cannot continue exporting raw materials used in batteries while factories and high-paying jobs remain overseas. This summit should therefore push for African manufacturing, local processing, and industrial development tied to green economy. And perhaps the important discussion of all is financial reform. Many African countries spend more money repaying debt than investing in healthcare, education, or job creation. The current global financial architecture punishes developing countries with high borrowing costs and unfair risk ratings. That means Africa often pays more to borrow money than wealthier countries. This summit says it wants to reform that system. But Africans should ask, will this summit generally challenge global inequality in finance? Or will it simply produce another communique with no structural change? Because without fair financing, Africa's development ambitions will remain trapped. And then there's peace and security. No continent can prosper amid instability. From the conflict in Sudan to insecurity in the Sahel, instability in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and the tensions across the Horn of Africa, peace remains essential for investment and development. But Africans increasingly want African-led security solutions, not endless foreign military dependency. This is another major test for this summit. Can Africa strengthen its own institutions, diplomacy, mediation systems, and regional cooperation? Because sustainable peace cannot be imported. Now, here's where this conversation becomes deeply important for ordinary Africans. Many summits speak about Africa, but few speak to Africans. That's why relevance matters. If the Africa Forward meeting is to be relevant, it must deliver results visible to ordinary citizens. Jobs for young people, better internet access, lower cost of living, better trade opportunities, industry growth, technology access, quality healthcare, and stronger education systems. Africans do not eat communiques. Citizens measure success through livelihoods. And Africans' youth especially will judge this summit very differently from the previous generations. Young Africans today are informed, they are connected, entrepreneurial, and politically aware. They are tired of symbolic politics without delivery. They want accountability. They want transparency. They want African leaders to negotiate for positions of dignity, not dependency. And another important issue is intra-African unity. Africa often negotiates globally while divided internally. Yet the continent's greatest strength lies in collective bargaining power through the African Union and frameworks like the African Continental Free Trade Area. If Africa negotiates as fragmented states, external powers will always dominate the conversation. But if Africa negotiates collectively, that is economically, politically, and technologically, the balance changes drastically. That's what we had for you today. So if you've got any comment to improve on this conversation, please do so in the comment section. My name is Ntalam Kosia, and this is the Horn Broadcasting Channel.